Sometimes we talk about stories online like they're just stories, distant, dramatic, and safe to discuss from behind a screen. But every once in a while, a story cuts through that distance. A story that makes you look at yourself and wonder if we, as people, have forgotten what compassion really means. That's where the Whittakers come in. 4 years now. Their name has been floating around the internet. At first, it was fascination, people drawn to the family's uniqueness, their deep roots in rural West Virginia, and their quiet way of life. Then came sympathy, and then controversy, and then chaos. And somewhere between all the debates and the finger-pointing, we lost the most important truth of all. The Whittakers are a family of real people who have been failed by almost everyone who claimed to help them. Now it's Thanksgiving season, a time when families gather, share meals, laugh, argue, and forgive. But for the Whittakers, that sense of warmth, of togetherness, has been ripped away. And honestly, they deserve better. When the cameras first found the Whittakers, they were living quietly, far removed from the noise of the modern world. What should have remained a sensitive glimpse into an extraordinary family became, instead, a public phenomenon. People watched. Millions commented. And then the vultures showed up. People who saw not humanity, but opportunity. Video after video, live stream after live stream, donations, promises, tears, and tension. Everyone had a version of the story, and everyone wanted credit. But now, in 2025, where has all that attention left them? Betty is reportedly heartbroken, weary, and anxious. Larry barely speaks anymore to outsiders. Lorraine, who has always been fragile, has been separated from them for months. And the rest of the world keeps asking, what happened? The better question is, what didn't happen? Let's be real. The Whittaker family didn't ask to be famous. They didn't ask for videos or GoFundMes or debates. All they wanted was understanding and maybe a bit of help to live with dignity. But when outsiders came in with cameras and big hearts and even bigger egos, things spiraled fast. The family's privacy vanished, and their struggles became clickbait. Eric Carroll came first with promises. Patrick followed with new ones. Both claimed to care, both left behind chaos. Then the state got involved, and now there's red tape, restrictions, and separation. Thanksgiving, the season that should bring them comfort, is instead a reminder of everything they've lost. And here's the thing that hurts the most. It didn't have to be this way. If the people who claimed to be helping had simply stayed honest, if they had kept the focus on the family instead of themselves, the Whittakers could have had a better life by now. There's no reason this family should be living in fear of being taken apart. There's no reason they should have to worry about whether donations actually reach them. There's no reason that kindness should have turned into conflict. But that's where we are. And now, all we must do, is make it right. You see, this story stopped being about content a long time ago. It's about responsibility now. We, the audience, have power, and that power has consequences. Every view, every comment, every dollar sent or withheld has shaped the way the Whittakers are treated. So the question is, what can we do this Thanksgiving that actually helps? Because the answer isn't more talk. It's not another documentary or a new expose. It's not drama between creators. It's compassion, action, accountability. If you strip everything away, the scandals, the speculation, the personalities, what remains is a family that has suffered more from attention than from neglect. They've been dissected like a case study when what they needed was care. When you talk to people who live near them, the story changes. Locals describe Betty as kind but exhausted, protective but tired of seeing strangers with cameras. They talk about how, after all the attention, the road to their home became busy. Cars stopping, people staring, curious onlookers acting like tourists. And now, silence. No one comes anymore. The donations slowed, the promises faded, and the so-called helpers disappeared. The same public that once obsessed over their lives moved on to new scandals, new content, new outrage. It's what the internet always does. It consumes empathy until it's empty. But the Whittakers never got to move on. They're still there, trying to live, trying to make sense of why people they trusted either betrayed them or forgot them. Here's the truth. If we really want to make a difference this Thanksgiving, it starts with one thing: restoring dignity. That doesn't mean throwing more money into questionable fundraisers or chasing viral moments. It means simple, transparent, human support. Things like making sure Betty and Larry have the basics: proper heating, food, clothes, medical access. It means advocating for their right to stay together as a family instead of being separated by bureaucracy. It means speaking to state authorities, not to harass, but to ask respectfully, what can be done to ensure this family spends the holidays together? And if we're really serious, it means holding accountable those who profited off them without providing proof of where the money went. Because let's not sugarcoat it. Some people did profit. Videos were monetized. Donations were collected. Merchandise was sold. Yet the family still lives in the same conditions. So where did the help go? That's not negativity. That's accountability. And it's the least the Whittakers deserve. But accountability alone isn't enough. It's Thanksgiving, a time for gratitude, generosity, and grace. So here's an idea. Instead of debating, instead of fighting online, what if creators and communities joined forces for something simple, transparent, and kind? A verified fundraiser directly linked to the facility or to a verified caretaker. A Thanksgiving meal drive where every donation is documented, every receipt made public. No drama, no middlemen, no manipulation, just real help. Imagine the difference that could make, not just materially, but emotionally. For Betty to see people caring again without an angle. For Larry to feel valued, not gawked at. For Lorraine to know she hasn't been forgotten. Imagine, just for one day, the noise being replaced with peace. There's another part to this: forgiveness. This story has divided people, creators, and whole communities. There's anger everywhere. Anger at Eric, anger at Patrick, anger at those who called the state, and anger at those who didn't. But maybe this Thanksgiving, forgiveness could be the bridge that heals some of that. Not forgetting what was done, but choosing to move forward differently. Because as long as we're busy pointing fingers, nobody's helping the family. We also need to face something uncomfortable. Many of us, as viewers, played a role in how things turned out. Every click, every view, every comment fed the cycle. We didn't mean harm, but we became part of the spectacle. We watched videos of their pain, shared them, reacted to them, and somewhere along the way, forgot they were people. Thanksgiving is about family, not just ours, but all families. It's about empathy. It's about taking responsibility for the ways we've failed others. So maybe this year, our gift to the Whittakers isn't money or attention. Maybe it's respect. Maybe it's letting them be seen as humans again, not headlines. There's a beautiful irony here. The Whittakers, for all their struggles, have something we've lost. They love one another fiercely. They stick together. They have endured poverty, mockery, and intrusion, but they've never stopped being a family. And that's something worth honoring. They remind us that family isn't about perfection. It's about loyalty, forgiveness, and endurance. It's about surviving together, even when the world doesn't understand you. And maybe that's why their story hits so hard. Because in a strange way, the Whittakers mirror what's broken in all of us. So as Thanksgiving approaches, the question isn't what happened to the Whittakers. The real question is, what are we going to do about it? Are we going to let their story fade like every other internet scandal? Or are we going to turn this moment into something real, a movement of compassion, integrity, and action? Because the Whittakers don't need pity. They need peace. They don't need saviors. They need sincerity. And the good news? We can give them that. All it takes is honesty, transparency, and a little bit of heart. This Thanksgiving, let's do more than talk. Let's act. Let's organize. Let's contact the right people, find the truth, and ensure that a family who's already been through too much can finally sit down, eat together, and feel safe again. Because after everything, the lies, the fights, the exploitation, they still deserve what every family deserves: a warm meal, a full heart, and a little hope. And if that's not worth fighting for, what is? Comment below. What's one real, practical way you think we could help the Whittakers this Thanksgiving? Without drama, without noise, just genuine kindness. When the story of the Whittakers first went viral, it struck a deep chord with millions of people. Some cried, some donated, and others simply watched, fascinated, horrified, or moved by a glimpse into a kind of life most of us couldn't imagine. But what started as empathy soon turned into exploitation. Somewhere between helping and highlighting, too many people forgot the difference between documenting a story and using it. And that's where it all went wrong. Let's go back a bit. When the Soft White Underbelly channel first introduced the world to the Whittaker family, it was done with honesty and quiet reverence. Mark Lyda didn't sensationalize their lives. He simply presented them as they were: a family born into isolation, shaped by poverty, and surviving on the edge of society. It was raw, it was human, and it opened the world's eyes. People responded with compassion. Donations poured in. Letters, gifts, words of support. All from people who wanted to do something good. For a brief moment, it felt like kindness had won. But then the vultures came. Content creators who saw dollar signs instead of dignity. People who used the family's name to grow their own audiences. Promises were made. Fundraisers launched. But behind the scenes, greed started creeping in. Money was collected in the name of the Whittakers, but not all of it made it to them. People began questioning where the donations went, why some things didn't add up, and why the family still lived in poverty while others posted about helping. It became a circus. The saddest part? The family didn't even understand the scale of what was happening online. They weren't scrolling through comments or watching reaction videos. They weren't tracking the hundreds of thousands of dollars being discussed in their name. They just saw strangers come and go, some kind, some suspicious, and they tried to keep trusting because what else could they do? That trust was broken, and that's what we need to fix. Eric Carroll entered the picture as a supposed advocate, someone with a platform, promising to shine light on injustice. But his involvement only deepened the damage. Videos became about him, his emotions, his explanations, his defenses. The family's story became his brand. Then came Patrick, who stepped in later with new energy and a genuine desire to help. But by the time he arrived, the damage was already done. The community was divided. Mistrust was everywhere. People began choosing sides, Team Eric or Team Patrick, as if the Whittakers were a prize to be won instead of people to be protected. That's when the real tragedy began. Because while everyone online was arguing, the Whittakers were being quietly separated. From what's been reported, family members were placed in different facilities under state care. Betty, the matriarch, was left heartbroken. After a lifetime of taking care of her siblings, she suddenly couldn't see them freely. Think about that for a second. Imagine being nearly 80 years old, caring for your family your entire life, and one day being told, you can't see them anymore. No explanation that makes sense. No control over the decision. Just separation. That's not compassion. That's cruelty wrapped in bureaucracy. And what caused it? A cascade of chaos from outsiders who thought they knew better. Calls to authorities. accusations flying online, pressure from people who didn't even live in the same state. It was help gone wrong, a lesson in how good intentions can become weapons when handled carelessly. So here we are now, a week before Thanksgiving, trying to make sense of it all. The question isn't who to blame anymore. The question is, how do we fix what's broken? How do we rebuild trust, reunite a family, and restore the dignity that's been taken from them? It starts with truth. First, people deserve transparency. If someone is running a fundraiser or collecting money for the Whittakers, we need to see where every penny goes. Public records, receipts, and proof of delivery. No vague promises, no trust me statements. Real documentation. Second, we need to stop romanticizing the pain of poverty. It's not fascinating that the Whittakers live in those conditions. It's tragic. It's not quirky that they've survived isolation. It's heartbreaking that they had to. The internet loves to watch suffering until it's asked to do something about it. That has to change. Third, the community needs to speak up in the right way. Not through outrage videos or social media battles, but through collective advocacy. That means writing to the right officials in West Virginia, asking respectfully why this family was separated, what their current conditions are, and what can be done to let them celebrate the holidays together. Because if you strip away the headlines, this is a human rights issue. A family has been torn apart, and no one can seem to give straight answer why. Some people will say, well, they're better off now. They're being cared for. But being cared for shouldn't mean being isolated. The Whittakers' strength has always been their bond. Betty's love for her brothers and sisters kept them alive. Taking that away, especially now, feels like punishing them for surviving. There's no reason they can't live in dignity, together, with supervision and support. What they need is structure, not separation. And that's something people can fight for. This Thanksgiving, while most of us sit down with our families, the Whittakers might be sitting in different rooms, under fluorescent lights, miles apart. Think about that. Think about how many of us have watched their story unfold. Millions of us. And yet right now, they might not even get to share a meal together. That should never sit right with anyone. We have the power to change that. Not through clicks or outrage, but through unity and persistence. If enough people write, if enough people speak respectfully, if enough creators stop exploiting and start collaborating for good, real change can happen. It's been done before. There have been families reunited because people refused to let bureaucracy win. There have been cases overturned because communities demanded compassion. And if anyone deserves that kind of effort, it's the Whittakers. Let's also address something important. Forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. Yes, some people lied. Yes, some people took advantage. But dwelling on that won't undo it. The only way forward is through accountability and change. That means never letting someone profit from their pain again. It means calling out exploitation when we see it, not to cancel, but to protect. The Whittakers deserve better, but so does the truth. We can't rewrite what's happened, but we can decide what happens next. So let's talk about what real help looks like this Thanksgiving. It's not about views, followers, or clout. It's not about proving who's right. Real help is quiet. It's practical. It's human. A community food drive, a verified delivery of Thanksgiving meals to their facility, new winter coats, or even letters from supporters. Things that reach them, not the people talking about them. That's where healing begins. And it's not just about the physical needs. Emotional care matters too. Letting them know people still care, that they're not forgotten. That's worth more than any viral post. Because the truth is, when the cameras turn off, that's when compassion should start, not end. Every one of us who has followed their story has a choice now. We can keep watching from afar, dissecting every rumor, or we can step up and be the difference this family has been waiting for. It's not too late. Thanksgiving is a time for second chances, for grace, for making things right. And maybe, just maybe, this is the year the Whittakers finally get that grace. Because after everything they've been through, the lies, the attention, the separation, they've earned it. They've earned peace. And maybe that's what we can give them. Not pity, not charity, but peace. Peace in the form of a warm meal shared together. Peace in knowing that people who once watched their pain are now fighting for their comfort. Peace in realizing that humanity still exists, even online. It won't erase the past, but it will remind them that the world still has goodness left. And maybe, just maybe, that's all they've ever wanted. Comment below. If you could do one real thing to help the Whittakers this Thanksgiving, a meal, a letter, a donation, or even a call for reunion, what would it be? When you trace the Whittaker family story, you see a pattern that repeats again and again. People showing up with promises, cameras, and smiles, and then disappearing when the work gets hard or when the attention dies down. It's a cycle that's left behind confusion, distrust, and heartbreak. But even with all of that, the Whittakers still manage to do something remarkable. They keep going. This part of the story isn't just about what went wrong anymore. It's about what can still go right. A few months ago, someone posted online that the state gave Betty and Larry a 30-day deadline to fix their property or face being removed from it. For a family already living on the edge, that news hit like a hammer. The words 30 days, that's not just a warning. That's a countdown on someone's home. There was panic across social media. Supporters flooded comment sections, asking for updates. But as usual, the noise was louder than the facts. No one knew exactly what was true. The heartbreaking part? Betty didn't know either. When you're poor and rural and your life has become the subject of the internet's curiosity, people stop treating you like a person. They treat you like a rumor. Let's be clear, the Whittakers are not content. They're not a charity project or a brand. They're a family that's been living in extreme poverty for decades. And the people who filmed them, managed them, or claimed to represent them, they all had a duty to protect them. Instead, that duty got lost in the chaos of views, likes, and ad revenue. There were fundraisers with unclear totals, people arguing about who gave more, and accusations thrown like stones. The kind of noise that would break anyone down. Meanwhile, the family just sat there, in the middle of it all, without internet, without a voice, and without the means to defend themselves. And here's the cruel irony. Everyone claimed to be helping. This Thanksgiving, we have to stop pretending that good intentions are enough. Good intentions without accountability can do just as much harm as malice. You can't feed a family with apologies or promises. You can't keep them warm with YouTube views. The Whittakers need real help. They need real proof that people still care, not just about their story, but about them. Let's talk about what that means. If you've been following this story for a while, you know there's been an ongoing debate about money. Who raised it, who spent it, and whether any of it ever reached the family. That question shouldn't be difficult to answer. When money is raised for someone, there should be receipts, records, proof of delivery, and verification. The fact that these things are still unclear is proof of how much transparency has been missing. And that's not just a scandal, it's a moral failure. Because every dollar that was supposed to help could have been a meal, a heater, or a doctor's visit. That's not small. That's life-changing. But here's where hope enters the story again. Even after all the broken promises, there are still people who truly care. People who have no channel, no agenda, no need for credit. Just compassion. Some locals have quietly helped, dropping off food, fixing things on the property, checking in on the family. Small acts that don't make headlines, but make all the difference. And now, with Thanksgiving near, we have the chance to build on that. Not with drama, but with structure. Imagine this, a simple, verifiable campaign. No middlemen, no confusion, no arguing, just direct assistance. A meal program, a local food bank partnership, a trusted advocate, someone neutral and transparent, who ensures everything goes directly where it should. This isn't fantasy. It's doable, but it requires people to put aside pride and ego. It means creators working together instead of tearing each other apart. It means remembering why this family's story mattered in the first place. Because at its core, this was never about who was right or who was first. It was about helping a family in need. We also need to address something a lot of people are afraid to say. The Whittakers deserve privacy now. They deserve to live without cameras in their faces or strangers knocking on their door. They deserve peace. And that doesn't mean we stop caring. It means we start caring differently. Instead of asking for new videos, we should be asking, how are they doing? Do they have heat, food, access to healthcare? Because true empathy is quiet. It doesn't demand attention. It doesn't require proof. It simply acts. You know, one of the saddest parts of all this is watching Betty's spirit slowly dim under the weight of it all. She's always been the heart of that family, the one who makes sure everyone eats, the one who keeps the peace when tensions rise. But lately, from what's been said, she's tired. Not just physically, emotionally. She's carried too much for too long. Imagine being told that people online were fighting about you, raising money in your name, and that somehow you still didn't have enough to buy groceries. That's betrayal. And yet, even in her exhaustion, Betty has never lashed out, never turned cruel. She just keeps praying, hoping, and trying. If that doesn't break your heart a little, you're not paying attention. This is why this Thanksgiving matters so much. It's not just another holiday for them. It could be a turning point, a chance to remind them that not everyone forgot, that kindness still exists. Even something as simple as organizing Thanksgiving dinner, turkey, potatoes, desserts, delivered directly to them or to the facility where they're staying, could mean more than we realize. Because for once, it wouldn't be about who gets credit. It would be about giving them a moment of normalcy, something warm, simple, and good, something they deserve. But it's not just about the food. It's about restoring connection. There are reports that some family members still can't visit one another freely. If that's true, that's unacceptable. Thanksgiving is about family. No government, no department, no outsider should have the right to permanently separate a family unless there's proven danger, and there's been no such proof shared publicly. We need to start asking questions respectfully but firmly. Why can't Betty see her siblings? Why can't they be together for one day of the year? It's not just bureaucracy, it's inhumanity. And it's on all of us to challenge that. To the people who have platforms, stop using this family's pain for clicks. Use your voice for pressure instead. Pressure to reunite them. Pressure to ensure transparency. Pressure to protect them from further exploitation. Every time someone turns their story into another conspiracy or monetized drama, it sets them back. Every time someone fabricates details to get views, it makes it harder for real advocates to be heard. We don't need more noise. We need truth. So let's talk about second chances. The Whittakers deserve one, not because they're perfect, but because they're human. And so do we. Every person who's ever watched a video about them, who's ever commented or shared or reacted, we all have a second chance now to turn our attention into action, to turn our curiosity into compassion. If every person who ever watched their videos simply sent one act of kindness, a card, a dollar, a letter, a prayer, the impact would be enormous. Because change doesn't come from one person shouting the loudest. It comes from 1,000 small voices choosing decency over division. This Thanksgiving, imagine Betty sitting at a table surrounded by her brothers and sisters again. Imagine laughter instead of worry. Imagine gratitude instead of grief. It's possible. It just takes effort. And it starts with one question we should all ask ourselves. What am I doing to make their life better? If the answer is nothing, then maybe now's the time to change that. The Whittakers don't need a miracle. They need consistency. They need people who follow through. They need a community that doesn't forget after the headlines fade. That's what second chances look like. Not another viral moment, but quiet, persistent love. And this Thanksgiving, that's what they deserve. Comment below. If the Whittakers could see this message, what words of encouragement would you give them right now? Not about their story, but about them as people. Thanksgiving isn't just a holiday. It's a mirror. It reflects who we are, what we value, and how we treat one another when no one's watching. For most families, it's a day of warmth, of gratitude, of togetherness. But for the Whittakers, a family that's been pulled apart, misrepresented, and left behind. This season carries a different kind of weight. It's a reminder of what they've lost, but it could also become the beginning of what they regain if we finally step up and make this right. There's a phrase that's been floating around among supporters lately. They deserve peace, not pity. And that's the truth. The Whittakers don't need our sympathy. They need our sincerity. They don't need people crying over their story. They need people willing to take action. Because sympathy without action is just another form of apathy dressed as care. This Thanksgiving, what if we really decided, that their peace matters more than our opinions? What if the focus wasn't on who's guilty or who's lying, but on how to help this family find comfort, safety, and dignity again? That's the real story now. Let's start with what can still be done. The simplest, most immediate need, a Thanksgiving meal. It might sound small, even symbolic, but food has power. A meal shared among loved ones can restore something that money can't buy, a sense of belonging. Imagine Betty and her siblings sitting together again. A proper meal on the table, laughter in the air, the chaos quiet for one evening. Imagine Timmy smiling again, not because someone's filming, but because he feels seen and safe. That's what this season is supposed to be about. There are dozens of ways to make that happen. Local outreach, verified delivery through a nearby church or community center, or even direct coordination with the facility staff caring for them. No middlemen, no filters, no false promises, just genuine help. But here's the deeper work, the kind that doesn't end when Thanksgiving does. The Whittakers need advocates, people who are willing to stand up, ask questions, and refuse to let their story be buried under internet fatigue. Advocates who write to local representatives or social services, not to complain or accuse, but to request compassion, to ask calmly and clearly, why can't this family be together for the holidays? What steps can be taken to allow supervised visits? What would it take to let them live in peace as a family without constant interference? These questions aren't threats, they're lifelines. And when asked respectfully, they can move mountains. Because sometimes, change doesn't come from protests or hashtags. It comes from persistence, from people who care enough to keep showing up even after everyone else stops watching. Of course, that's not easy. The internet has a short memory, and attention is fickle. But that's where you, the viewers, the supporters, the people who still care, come in. You don't need a platform to make a difference. You just need a heart that refuses to forget. Share accurate information. Call out exploitation when you see it. Support verified fundraisers, not fakes. Encourage others to focus on kindness, not conflict. The story of the Whittakers has been twisted and broken enough times. Maybe it's time to rewrite it with truth, with empathy, with integrity. Now, let's talk about something most people overlook, the emotional damage. When you live your whole life isolated and poor, and suddenly the world is watching, it changes you. At first, maybe it feels good, like people finally see you. But then the comments start. The jokes, the speculation, the intrusion. And when the cameras leave, you're left with the echo of all that noise. It's hard to describe how deeply that kind of exposure can scar someone. It's not just humiliation, it's confusion. You don't understand why people who said they loved you are now arguing about you. You don't understand why the people who raised money for you aren't answering calls anymore. You feel abandoned all over again. Only this time, the whole world watched it happen. That's the part most viewers never see. The silence after the views. The loneliness after the noise. This is why healing has to go deeper than donations. The Whittakers need counselors who understand trauma and social isolation. They need advocates who speak with empathy, not pity. They need people who can help them process what's happened, not just fix what's broken on the outside, but help mend what's hurting on the inside. That's real healing, and it's just as important as food or shelter. If there's one lesson to learn from this, it's that good intentions mean nothing without consistency. Over the past few years, hundreds of people have come and gone in the Whittakers' lives. Some with cameras, some with microphones, some with cash, and some with nothing but curiosity. But how many stayed? How many still check in today? Kindness that disappears when the spotlight fades isn't kindness, it's performance. What the Whittakers need are people who are consistent. People who aren't there for the story, but for the people inside it. Even something as simple as sending a card every month, checking in on their caretakers, or donating through the same trusted source each season. That consistency builds something no viral video ever could: stability. And for a family who's lived their whole life on unstable ground, stability is everything. Now, some might say, it's not our problem, but that's where they're wrong. When you watch someone's life online, when you learn their names, their habits, their heartbreaks, you become part of their story, whether you mean to or not. That means you share a bit of responsibility. Not guilt, responsibility. Because compassion without follow-through is just entertainment. And haven't the Whittakers been entertainment long enough? Thanksgiving gives us the chance to rewrite that legacy. Imagine this year being different, not for us, but for them. Imagine a movement where people stop consuming their pain and start protecting their peace. Imagine an effort so united that even the state of West Virginia notices and says, people care about this family. That's not impossible. It just takes effort. It takes humility. It takes a willingness to stop talking and start doing. Because love without action is hollow, and this family has heard enough hollow promises to last a lifetime. There's one thing people often forget. For all their challenges, the Whittakers have something most of us don't: a pure, unconditional love for one another. They've lived through ridicule, poverty, and loss, and still, they laugh together. They protect each other. They survive. That's what makes their story so powerful. Not the tragedy, but the resilience. So maybe this Thanksgiving isn't just about helping them. Maybe it's also about learning from them. Learning that family isn't about perfection, but about loyalty. That love isn't about words, but actions. That kindness doesn't need cameras. It just needs courage. If we can give them even one quiet day, one warm meal, one moment of peace, then we've done something good. And maybe that small act will ripple outward. A reminder that humanity still exists, that decency still matters. Because the truth is, we all have a Whittaker family somewhere. A group of people forgotten, misunderstood, or mistreated because it's easier to look away. But looking away is no longer an option. Not now. Not after everything we've seen. So, as Thanksgiving approaches, here's the challenge. Don't scroll past this story. Don't sigh and move on. Do something. Anything. Write. Share. Give. Pray. Find one concrete way, however small, to make life a little brighter for this family. Even if you can't send money, send warmth. Send gratitude. Send humanity. Because that's what this season is meant for. When the world first saw the Whittakers, it saw what poverty and isolation could do to a family. But maybe now, the world can see what compassion can do too. The story isn't over. Not for them. Not for us. There's still time to make this right. And if we do it right, with honesty, with love, with grace, maybe next Thanksgiving, they'll be sitting together again. Smiling. Safe. At peace. That's the ending this story deserves. And it starts with us. Comment below. If you could send one message directly to the Whittaker family this Thanksgiving, what would you say to let them know they're not forgotten? Thank you for watching this video. Click here to watch another video that might interest you.